Hey everybody, welcome back to Ozzie's Oddities. Today I'd like to tell you about a project that I've just started. Well, I didn't just start it, I started a couple years ago. But I'm going to get at it and get it finished. I want to show you what's happening here. But anyway, I want to tell you a little bit about my wheelbarrow. When I was a kid growing up on the farm here, the neighbors used to help each other out. And the neighbor, I helped him clean his calf pens and stuff and make hay, whatever he needed help for. And he had a pole shed. And inside that pole shed, you know, farmers years ago, they hung everything on the walls of the sheds, on the machine sheds, you know, tools, you know, old bikes, anything they wanted to get out of the way, they hung it on the wall. Well, this guy, he had a wheelbarrow hanging on the wall. And this wheelbarrow had a wooden spoked wheel on it. And if you know me, I like wooden wheels and all this older looking stuff. So I looked it over really closely when I was working there one day. And I told him if he ever wanted to get rid of that thing, I'd sure like to buy it from him. I'd like to paint it up and use it on my farm. Well, that day never happened. And he passed away. But years ago, these wheelbarrows, they were quite common, the wood ones. Then they went to the metal ones, which always rusted away. Now they're plastic and fiberglass, but the wood ones always intrigued me. In fact, I made a couple with steel wheels, but this one had a wood wheel. And, well, anyway, when my neighbor died, they had an auction sale on his farm. And lo and behold, there it was. There was that wheelbarrow on the auction. Well, I was going to bid on it, and I did. And then a friend of mine, there was this lady I worked with in a museum, and she was bidding on it, and she was a neighbor, good friend. I didn't want to bid against her, but anyway, I didn't have the kind of money she had to bid on it, and she got it. She bought this thing, took it home, and wouldn't you know it, planted flowers on it, sitting it outside. You know what happens to a wood wheelbarrow when it sits outside for any amount of time? It's pretty much gone within a year. It just rots away, especially if it doesn't have any preservative on it. And this thing there was no paint left on it. So she took it home, and she knew that I was interested in it, and she asked me why I didn't buy it, but I said, well, I didn't want to get in the way. So anyway, there was, down the road, years later, all of a sudden, here comes this wheelbarrow into my yard. And wow, a bunch of pieces. And sure enough, it was the wheelbarrow from my neighbor's auction. And I thought, wow, here's my chance to fix it up. But there wasn't much left of it, and I'm going to show you what's left of it. But anyway, it was really interesting because most of the metal parts, I think, were there. I think they are. I'm hoping they are. It looks like it to me. And I can kind of remember how it looked in my mind, and from what's left of it, I can still see, you know, the general shape of the sideboards and get most of the general dimensions off of it. So anyway, this thing, I put it in my blacksmith shop, and I had it in the corner for quite a few years, and I was tripping over it all the time, getting stuff, and I thought, that'll be a good time to fix that up. So I brought it out of the blacksmith shop, brought it into my heated shop here this winter. By the way, it's the 30th of January, and it's above zero today. I think it was about 8 above this here today. And it's cold, but we're going to try to put this together. Now I examined it, I took some dimensions, and it looks like it was made out of, it's a hard wood. I don't know if it's it looks like it could be oak, it could be beech, but some of it looks like ash. So I was thinking, oak is kind of hard to work with, so I thought ash would really be good. And then to make it lighter, you make the box, which their box was made out of some pine in it on the floor inside. So I thought, well, I got pines that I sawed, so I got pine lumber. And one time I bought some white ash from the Amish. My Amish friends out here, they use it in the buggy shops. Okay, I've got the lumber roughed out, and I clamped it in my vise at my workbench here. Now we're going to put a taper for the handles And the taper is a 17-inch taper. This is approximately 2 by 2 inch, and it will get smaller when I plane it down. The tools we're going to use today to make that taper, we're going to use what's called a drawing knife and a spoke shave. This is a unique spoke shave. It has 2 blades, a straight one and a curved one, which is really handy for making round dowels and round handles. So let's start cutting this down, the taper. Oh, I should make a line across the end so I know where my center is to keep it uniform to the center and not go off crooked. Okay, there's the approximate center. Now, what I need to do is measure the diameter of the end of that handle. Approximately 1 3/8 on the end. So what is that? Okay, let's make a circle on here so we know where we're at. That looks pretty good. Come up with it. Stick around long enough, you'll meet my half brother. This white ash is some hard wood. I've had this wood drying for about 6 years now, so I know it's going to be good and dry. It won't split. If you work this white ash when it's green, it goes a lot easier. I bought this white ash to use on my wood lathe. It turns beautiful and it's nice and strong for making tools. The Amish cut for wagon tongues. They cut these white ash wagon tongues and they warped on them so they couldn't use them. And they told me it was going to be firewood, so I said, well, it can't be firewood. So I bought it for the use on my lathe. I never used it all. I had quite a few of them. Yeah, that's good. All right. I'm going to turn it into ice. You know, because of the grain pattern on this stick of wood, the draw knife just wasn't cutting it for me as smooth as I'd like. So I'm going to try to do it with a Stanley plane. That'll give me a more straight where I was getting a scalloped effect on here. Yeah, this is doing a little better job. So I get a nice smooth taper. Little goes right there. Some of the metal parts were still bolted onto some of the rotted wood. So the first thing I did is take all of those apart, take the bolts off. I cleaned them up a little bit with a wire brush. And then I decided I better sandblast them. So I got them in my sandblaster in the shop, and I sandblasted all the metal parts and got them down to the nice shiny metal. And then I primed them. 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of gloss black enamel. Okay, we've got all the hardware now. I've taken all the hardware. I had it sandblasted here. I took it into my basement in the house and I painted it, primed it, painted it black. But we've got the handles cut out and I roughed out stock from the wood pile for the bed. I don't have the sides yet. And I have the stock for the undercarriage of the frame. Here's a piece of that, this here. I'm going to cut that to length yet. And then we're going to plane the wood today. It's going to be noisy. Okay, we finally got all the parts sandblasted, one coat of primer and two coats of gloss black Rust-Oleum, two heavy coats. I did the wheel, gave that some paint. So these are the parts. So they're ready to go. All the parts are ready to go. Now we just got to figure out where to put them. I need to cut recesses for the front axle bearing holders, whatever you want to call them. Do that the bandsaw. But anyway, I had to round the ends of the handles. So the first thing I did was I filed them around to accept the holder for the wheels. Not too bad. Could have been cut back a little farther. Deep in that. Looks good. Now, This is the cross piece that goes underneath the legs of the wheelbarrow and ties the main frame together. Drill a hole in there. The support that held the legs of the wheelbarrow, the metal legs, and also it kept the handles from pulling together. So you had to have a support beam underneath. And the support beam not only had to be bolted through the handles, but also through the metal legs. So I had to drill that out. And then they came together with an angular piece in the center for bracing the legs from going back and forth. And they had to be drilled also in the center. So I did that at the drill press, and it was 1/4-inch bolts, most of those were. Okay, we're laying this thing out, trying to get it. If I wouldn't have used the T-square, not the T-square, the sliding bevel, T-bevel, if I wouldn't have used that to get my angles and make sure they were all equal, if I picked that wheelbarrow up and was walking with it, if they weren't perfectly straight, I'd be heading north and I'd end up west, going west, because that wheel has to run true with the handles. On the money. Woo-wee. Remember where we put these things. According to my working drawing, the handles on the end where you grab them are spread apart farther, so it tapers in, so that the wood had to be tapered and filed at a taper to fit the bearing holders on the end. So I got them just right, laid them out. I used a sliding T-bevel to get the right angles on those, and I filed them to fit perfect. guess that's why you're supposed to clamp it. Get it on center. Once I got everything curved and fitted on the front, I could bolt on the wheel bearing holders to hold the shaft from the wheel. So that would, and then I could clamp it and hold it from spreading apart on there until I got the box on. So once I got it shaped and fitted perfect, I drilled the holes to hold the bearing holders. Okay, we're starting to get the hardware on this thing now. Line it up. I got all my angles right, I think. Okay, let's see if we can get these in. Well, that's hardwood. Woo. Oh boy, I think my drill is just really dull. Can't drill wood. What the heck's going on here? every time I pick one up, it seems to be dull. See what it says now. I got all the wrong size bolts. When I got that cross piece all drilled, then I had to put it together and make sure it came out. And I had it measured pretty good because it fit in, and I bolted it on there. Okay, today we're going to cut the uprights for the front of the wheelbarrow. Anyway, I didn't show you everything. I mean, the table of the bandsaw was a little bloody, and I had to go down the emergency room. But they know me down there pretty well by first name now, and oh, I don't know, 5 stitches, and I could go home, and it all turned out okay. There, not too bad. That's the upright that'll support the back of the box on the wheelbarrow. In order for those uprights to get the right angle, there had to be a cuts in. You took a rabbet out, but the rabbet had angles, and I marked off the angles, and then I cut them out with a back saw to make sure I got them. The front of the wheelbarrow box itself has 2 risers coming up, and now they're at an angle, and they have to be cut in at a perfect angle to fit over the handles, and their angle has to be at the slope of the front of the wheelbarrow box. That's what sets you slope. Then you've got steel braces going down onto the handles towards the wheel. Those risers had to be perfectly parallel with each other, and the plane of the front had to match those risers. That's why I clamped them at first. So once I had one bolted on, then I went to the other one and with the same angle, and ran a bolt through that, through the handle and through the risers. You had to have them equal. Nice if I could read it. We got some boards planed, we got it together, got the wheel on, got the handles on. It's looking a little better. We got the risers up. Still got a long way to go, but we're going to cut some boards to fit there in there on the platform. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to do it by hand. I got rough lumber from my stack of rough cut sawed lumber here on the farm, and I took those and I sawed them to a rough cut length. Once I had them cut to the rough length, now was the time, everything had to be planed down. So I ran them through my planer, 12-inch planer, and I planed all the boards to the same thickness, and they came out nice and smooth. Once I had them planed, I laid them on the wheelbarrow, and the first board against the front had to come with the angle that fit the front. So I took my sliding T-bevel and laid it in there, got my angle, went to the joiner and cut that, and it fit perfect. Once those, remember the floorboards are cut to a rough length. Now I got to get the right, according to my working drawing, I got to get the right angle from the front to the back. So I have to have that equal on each side of the handle. So I use my metal yardstick, and I laid that out there and took measurements, and then I drew a line down, and then I cut those boards all the same length. I measured. Measuring was very important. once I had that line laid out with the yardstick, I took them to the bandsaw and I cut them off. I split the line to get them in accurate on the bandsaw. Each board was sawed to the right length. I had to get the right length screw, and I wanted those screws to be right in the center of the handle, so I had to put a line down there. So I measured my first board and my last board and got the center of the handle, and I ran a line on there. Then I measured on each board to keep the screws in equal distance. And the screws went through the board and 1 inch into the handle. So they're 1 3/4 screw. After I got that line on the handles and marked with a pencil equidistance on each board for the screws, then I took a awl and put a dimple in each board so I knew where the screw would go. Even though I jointed those floorboards, in order to keep them tight so they wouldn't move, I put clamps on, long clamps for the full length of the wheelbarrow base floor in order to hold it tight while I screw it on so it wouldn't move. First the pilot hole went through the board. That was just a clearance hole for the shank of the screw. Then the screw itself went down into the handle 1 inch, so I drilled a pilot hole down not quite 1 inch. And then on top of that screw hole, I countersunk it for the head. Should be good. This is the one I want to use. They're together. Now, I drew an arc. I drew an arc on a piece of paper how I'd like the back end to be on the sides. So I'll cut them out and use that as a pattern. Start at my 1/4 inch mark. Right there, now I'm off my pencil. No, I'll use this one. See that? Okay, that's my arc right there. I think that'll be pretty good on the back end. Okay, we got another one cut. That's the top board. I'll set it on here. Okay, I cut some boards now. I think will fit. Hope they'll fit. I'm going to try to clamp it up and get this thing so I can start putting things together here. I had to get my angles right, so I cut them over there. And I'm hoping they're right. I'm going to attempt to put some of this together and see what it looks like. Something like that. Like that. Okay, now let's put side. Okay, we'll go that way too far. Good. Let's clamp this. Sideboards. The sidewall boards, together. I found out that they had also had to have an angle, because when they came at an angle to the front, they had to have an angle to fit the front, and they bypassed the front just a hair so I could draw and get my straight cut angle on there. So I fit them, and then I clamped them up, and I did that on each side to get the right angle. Now the front, while I was doing the sides, I kept the front loose, and I just clamped it together because I wanted to make sure those angles were right, so I could always move it even if I had to make another one. But by clamping it, I could always change my angles. But once they're screwed down, then you got to take them on and off. So now I got them right. Now I'm screwing them on. I put the screws in and held them on tight. Well, no, we never pull out. What we have to do right now is we have to anchor the sides. When the sides are on there, they need an upright that goes into a pocket, a metal pocket, to hold them stiff on the side, to hold the sides in place. And I made a wire model. I don't know if you can see this very good. You probably can't. But it's just a wire form of the saddle that's going to hold the sides in. I cut some steel. I couldn't find any steel, so I found a lawnmower base, and I cut a hunk of steel 1 inch by 8 inches long out of that. And I'm going to bend that into the saddles. Now I bent one up just to see, as a prototype, to see how it would work. And I'm going to copy that. I think it's going to work. I'm going to cold form this. I don't think I need to heat this. this, I want to go over this way. Okay, this will be this bend right here. How am I going to do that? Just a little twist in there. Perfect. A little longer there. Something about that. All right, let's cut this puppy off. I took these brackets, once I had them bent up, they were, again, the wheel, cut-off wheel leaves them rough, so I took them to the grinder, made them nice and smooth so they'd be soft. What is with my light? Well, today's a sanding day. We're going to sand a little bit. See what it looks like. Before I put these sides on, I wanted to make sure the floor was nice and smooth and they sat level. If there was any bowl in the edge of that belt sander, I took and I sanded it all down so it was nice and smooth. And because the screws and everything was reset, I could sand right over and make a nice flat bottom. Once I got them measured, I clamped them on after I got everything on the wheelbarrow, the sides brackets. I clamped them on so I know exactly where they go. I took them to the workbench and I screwed them on solid. One thing I had to do was make sure that these boards, they're 6-inch boards, and I had to make sure that they wouldn't warp. So I decided first I was just going to put 2 screws in. Then I decided I'm going to go with 3. So I put glue and screws on there, and I had to get the right size screw so it didn't go all the way through, and it took a different size than I used on the other one. So I finally got screws, and I put 6 of them on each bracket. So that's 24 screws I had to put in, so that took me a little while. But again, I had to pre-drill the bracket for a clearance hole, and then I had to drill a pilot hole for the screw into the side. And then I had to countersink the top. So I did that for all the screws. Now, you see that? Boy, that's going to last forever. In order to get my front bracket on the side of the wheelbarrow, the side bracket that goes into that bracket that holds it on, I had to put the sides on to the wheelbarrow, and they had to line up with the front bracket, which is nothing but a type of angle iron. I think it's about 3 by 3/4 inch angle, and that is your bracket that holds them from coming up sideways on the wheelbarrow and holds them in tight. So I had to have that measurement perfect. So I clamped those brackets on to make sure I get my alignment right. I never realized that this wheelbarrow took so much thought in all the angles and how to figure the length of all these boards and stuff. It took a lot of thought. Without a working drawing, I couldn't have done any of it. You all right? I think we got her. Okay, we moved up to bigger and better things. We're going to put some finish on this I started a little bit here on the wheelbarrow. I mixed a little pigment in with the turpentine and linseed oil this time. I wanted it just a hair darker, just a hair. Again, this is a mixture of 1/3 turpentine and 2/3 linseed oil. Turpentine helps it penetrate the wood better. And of course, the linseed oil is a very good preservative. But I realized that years ago, when this wood machinery was made, even a wooden thrash machine or a fanning mill or a wheelbarrow, think of all the expertise that had to go into that, all the thought processes they had to do, and they had to have the right tools to do it. I was lucky I had a jointer and a bandsaw, but I could have done it with a plane too, but it would have went. And I did some with a plane on the handle, but back then they probably didn't have a lot of those tools. And just think of the expertise these people had when they made that stuff way back when. Unbelievable. Just amazes me. That's pretty much the underside. You got it? All right, let's get this done. Wow, really soaking it up. Okay. Again, these are removable sides, so I should just be able to set them in there so they don't go all the way down and they'll dry. There, ready? Okay, we've got the sides on, soaking in pretty good, especially on the end grain here. I'll hit a couple of these places while it's on here. That's pretty good. Well, here's the finished product now. We've got the wheelbarrow all complete, and I think it's a little unique. You don't see many wheelbarrows with a spoke wood wheel, oak spokes in here on the fellies. Pinstriped, sides come off. You don't see many of these around anymore. I see a lot of wheelbarrows, and I've made several with just a steel wheel with steel spokes, and those are the modern ones, but I see very few with the wood spokes with the metal hub. The wood spokes fit in the middle hub of this wheel. I've never seen it. It's a cast hub, and the axle goes through it. It's really neat. All the wood here came from our farm except for the ash handles. I bought it from the Amish who were going to use them for making wagon tongues. And I used a draw knife and I made them out of ash. Otherwise it's pine. It's solid as a rock of Gibraltar. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making this wheelbarrow, and I think I'll make another one if I ever find another hub. It was a long time brewing on this wagon, this wheelbarrow. It took a long time to get it all together, long process, a lot of steps, and I hope you all followed it, and I appreciate you if you did it. It was a fun project, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It took a long time to do it, and I know it takes a lot of time to walk through all the steps, but it's worth it. And I appreciate you looking at it. Thanks for being with us here on Ozzie's Oddities. We always look forward to seeing you. Thanks, everybody.